Hey guys, it's Carter. This we're going to talk about top five handicapping sets for the Belmont Stakes. And this video should be helpful no matter if you're new to horse racing, if you've been doing it for years or just a few years or anything in between. But we're going to talk about strategies that'll help you cash more winning ticks and figure out what type of horses typically do well in the Belmont. And we're going to get into tip number one, which is always bet the Tapit in the Belmont. And Tapit has started four winners since 2014. You got Tonalist, Creator, um, Tapit, and Essential Quality. So Tap has definitely shown that he can, sire a lot of winners in the Belmont. And since 2014, Tap has eight horses that have finished in the money. At other ones like Tacitus, Lonnie finishing the money. There's a couple others I can't think of right off the top of my head. And then Tapit Trice and Tapit Shoes are this year's horses that meet the criteria. So, you should give those horses a little bit of extra consideration. Personally, out of the two, I prefer Tapit Trice a lot more than Tapit Shoes. Tapit Shoes hasn't really done much for me, but definitely if he was to do good in the Belmont, you could say, well, he is a Tapit. So, you got to keep that in mind. But out of that, Tapit Trice would be for me. And tip number two is the Derby to Belmont angle is always very powerful. And I think this is, out of anything, I say Derby to Belmont angle is something you really have to pay extra close attention to. And for some reason, the 5 week layoff does wonders for fresh horses. A lot of trainers say want to give their horses 4 to 5 weeks between races. So I think that's why you see it do really good. 14 out of the 24 horses have finished in the money since 2014. And if you include Nest, who ran the Kentucky Oaks, which is just the day before the Derby, it could be 15 out of 24. So you're talking well over 50%, probably closer to, 60% of the horses that, finish in the money, which is, really good. And, some of the other ones are like Triple Crown winners that have finished, in the money that ran in all three, like Justify and American Pharoah. So as you can see, Derby horses typically do, very well going to the Belmont. And horses that meet that criteria this year will be Angel of Empire, Tapit Trice, Hit Show, and Raise Cane. And the three I really like is Angel of Empire, Tapit Trice, and Hit Show. Angel of Empire, Hit Show are both Brad Cox horses. He came and won the Belmont with Essential Quality in 2021. Of course, Tapit Trice is trained by Pletcher, who's definitely had his share of success in the Belmont. And then Race Cane is trained by Ben Colebrook. Not as much success as these other two trainers on the Triple Crown Show, but definitely has that angle going for him and has looked solid at some time this year in some races. So, if you want to throw him in there at a price, that could possibly pay out for you. And the next angle is this one kind of surprised me until I actually, researched it and looked. And Woodman World and Tampa horses, do really well. And six horses that have raced Woodmore have finished in the money since 2014. So that was, real surprising. You had Mo Donegal last year. Tassus got second in, was it 2019 or 18? Uh, there's some other ones that have, came and finished. Skippy Longstocking got third last year. So you can look back at horses, Frost another one, 2015. So just go back and look at those horses, that came out of the Woodman War and give them just a little bit of extra, consideration. And four horses that are raced in Tampa have finished in the money since 2014. And most of them typically come from the Tampa Derby. And they had Ness last year that ran in another stakes race on it's either Sam F. Davis or the Tampa Derby undercard. But she ran there, then went to Keeneland, but she did have that race in Tampa. But you got horses like Destin, and then Ness, and some other ones. Tappert, who actually won it in 2017. So keep in mind those horses that are raced from Tampa. Might give them a little more consideration. And the horses that meet that criteria would be Tapit Trice and Hit Show. So keep those two in mind on your tickets. And then the next one is favorite horse that have won their last Derby prep. And I'm talking about like the Arkansas Derby, the Florida Derby, Woodman Memorial, those bigger, those final preps before the Kentucky Derby. Five winners have won their final prep race before the Kentucky Derby, and 10 out of 24 horses have finished in the money. So almost 50%. And, five winners from that. And Forte, Angel Empire, and Tapit Trice are horses that meet that. And just looking at this, you see Tapit Trice in a lot of these requirements, so far. So, maybe you want to get a little bit extra consideration of that horse in the Belmont, and top it off. He is trained by Todd Pletcher, who does really well in the Belmont. And then the Peter Pan is not a prep to sleep on, and two winners have raced in the Peter Pan since 2014, and that was Tonalist and Sir Winston. And it's pretty much either been win or bust when it comes to horses in the Peter Pan. Like you don't really see them, finish in the money if they don't win. Commissioner in 2014 was the only other horse that finished in the top three, that came out of that. I'm sure if you add it to a top four, you might could find some that get in that fourth spot. But for this video, I didn't do that. And the question is, can Arcangelo add to that number? And based on history, if you think Arcangelo can win the race, certainly put him there. If not, just probably leave him off the ticket completely. Uh, I heard he's training very forward for this race, and Gina Antonucci might not, put the horse there. She didn't think that he could, do something. So, keep that in mind, but don't sleep on the Peter Pan. And, you know, out of these, like I said, the personal favorite, of mine for the angle for the Belmont has to be the Derby to Belmont angle, just because it's so powerful. 14-24 horses finishing the money, 15 and 24 if you count Ness. Like, sometimes you can bundle that Oaks Derby right there together because it's so, so I ran a day apart. And typically when it comes to Preakness handicapping, it's good to, throw that in there. And, horses after looking at this, keeping on, definitely Tapit Trice, Angel of Empire. Forte will be the favorite, and he's coming off that layoff, and he does meet the favorite horse that won the last Derby prep, but you got to wonder how that long layoff's going to do for him between there and the Belmont. And he certainly could. He beat the Derby winner Mage, so if he came and demolished his field, I don't think anybody could be surprised. And if he came and ran fourth or somehow had a bad race first off the layoff and didn't run that great, I don't think people would be too surprised either. And one of the things, and I don't want to talk anybody off of a horse they like, or I try my best to spit out just facts, and then you kind of sort it out when you do your handicapping, and you can't pick every horse in the field, but you got to take the good and the bad for every horse. Is leading up to the Derby, when they were talking about Forte, they always said Forte was a smaller horse, compared to some of the other ones, and I wonder how being a smaller horse might affect him going in the Belmont distance. So if you're someone that's maybe on the fence with Forte, figuring out what to do with them, just keep that in mind. Is that something I kept close mind to, and between some of his other angles, I might personally lean towards playing against Forte. Maybe for trifectas and superfectas, where you can actually have a little bit more coverage on your tickets, throw them in there just because you don't want to be caught with them not on your tickets. But keep that in mind. It comes to bet Forte. And thanks for watching, guys. Plenty more to come between now and the